If you have these 15 Templar surnames, your bloodline may have royal connections. On the morning of 13 October 1307, doors were struck across France before many of the men behind them understood what was happening. The targets were not ordinary criminals. They belonged to one of the most powerful religious, military orders medieval Europe had ever produced, the Knights Templar, men who had guarded routes to the Holy Land, accumulated estates across Europe, moved money for kings, and built an organization whose Red Cross had become recognized far beyond Jerusalem. Now they were being arrested. Their property was seized. Interrogations followed. Accusations spread. And within a few years, an institution that had survived war in the East was formally suppressed. The Templar Order was dissolved in 1312. But destroying an institution is considerably easier than erasing every family that once touched it. And that brings us to a question that has fascinated genealogists, medieval enthusiasts, and families for generations. Could your surname connect you to the world of the Knights Templar? Perhaps, but probably not in the way you've been told. Because there is a problem with the phrase Templar bloodline. The Knights Templar were not a hereditary clan. A father did not automatically pass Templar membership to his son. The order was religious as well as military. So, finding a medieval Templar who carried a surname resembling yours does not prove that you descend from that knight. And a surname associated with medieval nobility certainly does not automatically make you royal. But once we stop looking for a mythical Templar gene and begin investigating the actual families, something far more interesting happens. We find knights, masters of the temple, crusaders, benefactors, powerful Anglo-Norman houses, families marrying into other aristocratic dynasties, and, occasionally, lines moving remarkably close to kings. So, this is not a list promising that 15 surnames make you descended from royalty. This is an investigation into 15 names that can open doors into the real social world surrounding the Templars. And the first surname is important because the man behind it became so famous that his stone likeness still lies in one of London's greatest surviving monuments to that world. 1. Marshal. If your surname is Marshal or Marshal, there is one medieval figure you will encounter almost immediately. William Marshal. But his story contains a detail that surname lists often oversimplify. William Marshal was not simply born into the Templars and did not spend his entire famous career as a Templar knight. He became one of the most formidable political and military figures of his age. He served kings. He became Earl of Pembroke. He acted as regent for the young Henry III. And near the end of his life, he fulfilled a vow connected with his crusading past and was admitted to the Knights Templar. When he died in 1219, he was buried in London's Temple Church. His effigy remains there today. Now, look at what happened around his family. His son, William Marshal the Younger, was also buried in the Round Church, and in 1224, the younger Marshal married Eleanor, sister of King Henry III. Suddenly, our investigation has already reached royalty. But be careful. If your surname is Marshal today, that fact alone does not establish descent from William Marshal. Marshal also developed as an occupational surname associated with the office of Marshal, meaning that multiple family lines could carry versions of it. This distinction will matter throughout our list. A historical surname connection is a clue. It is not a completed family tree. And our second name takes us even closer to the actual administration of the Templar Order in England. 2. Hastings. The surname Hastings is instantly recognizable because of 1066, but more than a century after the Norman conquest, the name appears in another remarkable setting. A Richard de Hastings is recorded among the medieval masters of the Temple in England. Lists of English Templar leadership place him in the 12th century, during the period when the order was establishing itself as a major institution in England. Think about what the title meant. This was not simply a knight who happened to visit a Templar estate. The master in England occupied an important position within an international religious organization controlling property, personnel, and resources. And this is where surname research becomes dangerous if we move too quickly. There were powerful medieval Hastings families. There were individuals called D. Hastings. There are thousands of people named Hastings today. Those three facts do not automatically form one continuous genealogical line. You need records to build that bridge. But if Hastings occurs deep within your documented British ancestry, the medieval appearance of the name gives you a fascinating direction to investigate. And the next surname carries an even clearer connection to Templar leadership. 3. St. Ledger is one of those surnames that immediately sounds as though it belongs inside a medieval charter. And in this case, that instinct takes us somewhere interesting. A Sir Roger St. Ledger appears among recorded figures associated with Templar leadership in England in the early 13th century. The wider St. Ledger name became established among landed families in England and Ireland. But again, we have to resist the temptation that makes medieval genealogy so seductive. A famous medieval bearer does not transform every modern bearer into his descendant. What it does give us is something more defensible. A surname genuinely present within the documented world of the English Templars. That may sound less sensational. Genealogically, it is far more valuable, because we're no longer beginning with legend. We're beginning with a person. And number 4 gives us a surname whose Templar association reaches directly into the final years before the Order's destruction. 4. More. Imagine being responsible for the Templars in England when the organization suddenly became the target of one of medieval Europe's most notorious persecutions. That brings us to William de la More. He is recorded as Master of the Temple in England from approximately 1298 until the crisis of 1307. That date matters. The year everything changed. While Philip IV moved against the Templars in France, the shock spread beyond French borders. The English Templars would eventually face arrest and investigation as well, and William de la More stood at the center of the English branch during its final chapter. Now imagine discovering More, or a superficially similar surname in your own ancestry. It would be extremely tempting to connect the two, but spelling similarity is not proof. More can have several independent surname origins, and centuries of spelling change make simplistic matching particularly dangerous. So why include it? Because William de la More gives us something rare, a personal name attached not merely to the Templars' glory, but to their collapse. And the 5th surname belongs to another man who held command shortly before him. 5. J. J does not sound particularly medieval. That is precisely why it is interesting. Brian de J appears as a late 13th century master of the Templars in England. His story ended violently. He was killed in 1298 at the Battle of Falkirk, where Edward I's forces defeated the army associated with William Wallace. Templar leadership records place Brian de J immediately before William de la More. Now, our investigation has crossed from crusading history into Scottish history. And notice what surnames are beginning to reveal. Not a secret fraternity surviving underground for 700 years. Something better. Connections between institutions that history books often separate. The Templars were not sealed away in Jerusalem. Their estates, officials, and political relationships were woven through medieval Britain. A man associated with their English leadership could die on a battlefield in Scotland. A Templar could interact with kings. A noble could enter the order near death. A family could donate land without ever becoming Templars themselves. This network is the real story. And if you're enjoying this investigation, subscribe to Unknown Discoveries, because before we reach Surname 15, we're going to encounter an important genealogical trap. Some of the families most popularly associated with the Templars have stories that become far less certain when the evidence is examined closely. But first, number 6. 6. Sandford. The surname is Sandford, also encountered historically in forms such as Saunford. And here, the surviving record becomes especially interesting. Robert de Sandford appears repeatedly among the masters of the temple in England during the 13th century. Why does that matter? Because medieval spelling was not modern spelling. A genealogist searching only for the exact form used by their family today can easily miss records written under a different form centuries earlier. Sandford, Saunford, Sanford. One letter can appear, another can disappear. A clerk writes what he believes he heard. A later copyist changes the form again, and suddenly a descendant assumes two names cannot possibly be related. This is one of the reasons medieval surname genealogy requires more than type in your present surname into a search box. You have to follow geography, property, marriage, witnesses, inheritance, and chronology. The surname is the door. Documents are the corridor. Number 7 takes us into another name that appears among English Templar officials. 7. Turville. The medieval records preserve forms such as Torteville and Turville, connected with men who held Templar authority in England during the later 13th century. Here, we encounter something viewers researching Norman ancestry will recognize immediately. The DE in a medieval name often indicated association with a place. Over generations, place-based identifiers could evolve into hereditary surnames. Pronunciation changed, spelling contracted, families migrated, and the polished modern surname could end up looking very different from the form written by a medieval clerk. This creates one of genealogy's great illusions. We imagine surnames traveling through history like sealed envelopes. They didn't. They were spoken, misheard, translated, abbreviated, rewritten, and standardized much later. So if you're searching for a medieval connection, don't ask only, "Does this spelling match mine?" Ask, "Can I document how my family's spelling changed?" That question separates ancestry from coincidence. 8. Forest. Another recurring name among later English Templar leadership appears in forms connected with Guy de Foresta. Records place him in positions of authority during the closing decades of the 13th century. At first glance, a modern surname such as Forest or Forest may seem tantalizingly close. But this is precisely where responsible genealogy slows down. A medieval locative name referring to a forest does not mean everyone later named Forest belongs to that individual's family. Similar surnames could arise independently in different places. That is why surname history and personal genealogy must remain separate until records connect them. But Guy de Foresta matters for another reason. Look at the period in which these men lived. The Templars had already lost Jerusalem. Acre, the last major Crusader stronghold in the Holy Land, fell in 1291. The military purpose that had helped justify the order's existence was becoming harder to sustain. Yet, the Templars remained wealthy landholders with enormous institutional connections across Europe. Temple Church's own historical timeline places the fall of Acre in 1291 and the suppression of the Templars between 1307 and 1312. These surnames therefore belong to men standing inside an institution approaching an ending. Almost nobody could have imagined when it was founded. And now we reach a name with a particularly strong medieval aristocratic flavor. 9. Montfort. The surname Montfort is associated with several important medieval noble families. It is also represented in records of Templar leadership in England, where a Robert de Montfort appears as master in the 13th century. But Montfort demonstrates exactly why we must not merge everyone with the same name. The medieval world contained multiple branches, territorial associations, and individuals whose relationships can be difficult to establish. Then there is the much more famous Simon de Montfort tradition, deeply entangled with English royal politics. The surname, therefore, carries enormous historical gravity. But gravity is not genealogy. If your surname is Montfort, the exciting question isn't, which medieval noble am I descended from? It is, how far can I prove my Montfort line before the records stop? Because if that documentary trail reaches into medieval landed society, then the investigation becomes genuinely extraordinary. And our 10th surname shows why the phrase royal connection needs to be handled carefully. 10. Mandeville. Mandeville belongs to one of the great Anglo-Norman names of medieval England. Geoffrey de Mandeville, Earl of Essex, became one of the most controversial magnates of the 12th century. His relationship to Temple Church is fascinating, but often misunderstood. For a long time, one of the famous stone effigies in the round church was thought to represent Geoffrey. Modern historical work has challenged that identification. Middle Temple notes that the effigy attribution was disproven, while recounting the unusual tradition surrounding Mandeville's remains after his excommunication and eventual burial in consecrated ground connected with the temple. That is exactly the sort of correction this documentary needs, because Templar history attracts legends. Cross-legged effigy. People say Templar. Medieval noble. People say Templar. Crusader. People say Templar. Ancient chapel. People say Templar. Yet even English heritage warns that the Templar connection of the famous circular chapel remains at Dover is tenuous despite the architecture encouraging the association. So, Mandeville teaches us an important rule. Templar looking is not the same as Templar proven. And that rule becomes crucial for the surname we're eventually going to investigate near the end. But before we get there, we have 5 names remaining, and among them is one surname that leads to a man standing at the intersection of Templar history, Magna Carta, royal government, and one of medieval England's most powerful family networks. The surname itself survived. The question is whether the bloodline did in the way most people assume, and that is where the second half of our investigation becomes considerably more complicated. 11. Paynes, the name at the beginning of the Templar story. If there is one surname that seems as though it should unlock the entire Templar mystery, it is Payne's, because behind it stands the man traditionally regarded as the first Grand Master of the Knights Templar, Hugues de Payens. He appears at the very beginning of the order's history. Around 1119, Hugues and a small group of knights formed the brotherhood that would become the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, the Knights Templar. King Baldwin II of Jerusalem provided them quarters associated with the Temple Mount, helping give the order the name by which history remembers it. By 1129, the new order had received formal ecclesiastical recognition at the Council of Troy. From that relatively small beginning came something extraordinary: land, fortresses, commanderies, international financial operations, political influence, and a network stretching across medieval Christendom. So, surely anyone named Payens, Payne, or Payne today should be investigating Hugues. They can investigate, but they should not assume. This is where language creates another genealogical trap. Payne was also a medieval personal name, and related surname forms could emerge independently. Similar modern spellings do not establish descent from Hugues de Payens. And there is an even bigger problem. Hugues himself belonged to the religious order whose members embraced vows inconsistent with the idea of creating some straightforward hereditary Templar dynasty. So, the most famous Templar surname on our list immediately destroys the simplistic idea of Templar bloodlines. But it also gives us something better. If you can document a Payne, or related family deep into medieval records, you have a genuine historical question to investigate. Not, am I descended from the first Templar? But, where did my particular version of this surname actually originate? That difference is the line between genealogy and fantasy, and number 12 takes us into territory where the Templar story becomes almost impossible to separate from legend. 12. St. Clare, the surname surrounded by Templar legend. Few surnames have accumulated more Templar mythology than St. Clare or Sinclair. Mention Sinclair and the Knights Templar together, and eventually one place appears: Rosslyn. Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland has become surrounded by stories involving hidden Templar knowledge, secret symbolism, and descendants of fugitive knights. It makes a wonderful mystery. There is just one enormous chronological problem. Rosslyn Chapel was founded in the 15th century by William St. Clare, more than a century after the suppression of the Knights Templar. That does not make the Sinclair family historically uninteresting, quite the opposite. The St. Clairs became a significant noble family in Scotland, with continental roots traditionally associated with St. Clair in Normandy. Their history intersects with Scottish aristocracy, landholding, and royal society. But the famous claim that Rosslyn Chapel itself was constructed as some surviving Templar sanctuary belongs far more comfortably to later legend than securely documented medieval history. And this is where our investigation changes, because perhaps you've seen Sinclair included on a Templar bloodline list. Perhaps you've even been told that carrying the surname proves descent from fugitive knights who escaped the destruction of the order. The evidence cannot support that conclusion from the surname alone. But don't throw the story away. Strip away the mythology, and something more useful remains. A powerful medieval family whose history moved through the same aristocratic world in which crusading culture flourished. And this distinction becomes even more important with our next surname. 13. De Clare, where the trail moves toward royal blood. Now we reach De Clare. And if the promise of this documentary was that some surnames surrounding the Templar world can lead toward royalty, this is where the genealogy becomes genuinely interesting. The de Clare were among the most powerful aristocratic dynasties of medieval Britain. Their story touches enormous estates, earldoms, Wales, Ireland, and the political struggles of the English crown. But one member is particularly relevant to our investigation: Gilbert de Clare, Earl of Pembroke, better known to history as Strongbow. Strongbow participated in the Anglo-Norman intervention in Ireland during the 12th century, and his marriage transformed his family's political position. He married Eowulf, daughter of Diarmait mac Murchada, King of Leinster. Stop there, because this is exactly where a sensational genealogy video might say, if your surname is Clare, you descend from Irish royalty. We are not going to say that. The historical marriage is real. The conclusion about every modern Clare is not. First, the modern surname Clare can have origins independent of the medieval de Clare dynasty. Second, even carrying a demonstrable surname associated with a noble family does not establish descent from every famous member of that family. But if, and this is the enormous if, you can build a documented genealogical line into the medieval de Clare dynasty, then royal and princely connections become a legitimate part of the historical investigation. That is completely different from a surname guessing game. And there is another fascinating connection. Strongbow's daughter Isabel de Clare became one of the greatest heiresses of her generation. She married the man from surname number 1, William Marshal. Now, look at what just happened. Our list is beginning to connect with itself. Marshal, de Clare, Royal Leinster, the English Crown, Temple Church, crusading aristocracy. These are not 15 isolated names. They belong to overlapping medieval networks, and William and Isabel's descendants became deeply entangled with some of the most important aristocratic families in Britain. This is why genuine medieval genealogy becomes far more exciting than invented Templar bloodlines. Once a documented line reaches the aristocracy, families begin connecting through marriage. One house leads to another. That house leads to an heiress. The heiress leads to another dynasty. And occasionally, the paper trail moves toward royalty. But surname 14 demonstrates why even an extremely powerful medieval name can deceive you. 14. Percy, a great dynasty but not a Templar certificate. Percy is one of the great names of English aristocratic history. The family's roots in England reach back into the Norman period. Over centuries, the Percys became inseparable from the political history of northern England. Northumberland, castles, rebellion, war, royal politics, the Wars of the Roses. The name seems almost designed for a documentary about secret medieval bloodlines. And the wider crusading world certainly intersected with the same aristocratic society in which families like Percy operated. But here's precisely where we need to resist exaggeration. Percy is not a magical Templar certificate. A medieval noble family could support religious houses, participate in crusading culture, interact with military orders, or belong to networks containing Templar patrons without every member becoming a Knight Templar. That distinction matters, because the Templars depended on far more than professed knights. They needed land, donations, income, patronage, political protection, tenants, officials, clergy, servants, agricultural estates. The Templar world therefore extended far beyond men wearing white mantles with red crosses. And that may be one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding the entire subject. When people imagine a Templar connection, they search for a knight. But your ancestor, if you genuinely have a family connection to a Templar estate, could have been almost anything: a landholder, a tenant, a witness, a benefactor, an administrator, a neighbor, someone whose property bordered theirs, or a member of a noble family whose interests intersected with the order. That possibility is less cinematic than discovering a sword-wielding ancestor. Historically, it is considerably more plausible. Now we reach Surname 15, the surname that reveals why the word royalty in our title needs one final explanation. 15. Beaumont. When noble genealogy reaches the royal world, Beaumont is another surname carried by major Anglo-Norman aristocratic families. The name is locative, originating from places called Beaumont in France, which immediately creates the same warning we've encountered throughout this investigation. Not every Beaumont belongs to one family. But the great medieval Beaumont dynasties moved at extraordinary heights of society. One particularly important figure was Robert de Beaumont, Count of Moulins, and later Earl of Leicester, who fought alongside William the Conqueror at Hastings. His descendants became deeply embedded within Anglo-Norman aristocracy. Another branch produced the Beaumont Earls of Warwick. Marriage repeatedly connected these houses with other noble dynasties, and this is where medieval genealogy begins behaving differently from modern surname mythology. If you genuinely establish descent from one aristocratic medieval family, you rarely discover only one aristocratic family. Marriage networks begin multiplying. Beaumont marries into another house. That house connects to another. An heiress transfers ancestry into a new surname. Within several generations, the surname may disappear from your direct line while the ancestry continues, and that gives us the final twist. Because if you genuinely descend from medieval royalty, your surname may be one of the least important pieces of evidence. Think about that. People search, is my surname royal? But royal ancestry does not remain permanently attached to royal-looking surnames. A king has a daughter. She marries an earl. Their daughter marries another nobleman. Several generations later, another daughter marries into a lesser-landed family. Centuries pass. The surname changes repeatedly. Eventually, the descendant could carry a completely ordinary surname. The bloodline continued. The famous name did not, and the reverse is also true. You can carry a magnificent medieval surname without descending from the magnificent medieval family you found online. That is why surname alone cannot prove Templar descent. It cannot prove noble descent, and it cannot prove royal descent. But it can tell you where to begin looking, and perhaps that is more exciting, because now we can answer the question we started with. The truth about Templar blood. Were their families associated with the Knights Templar? Absolutely. Were members of noble families admitted into the order? Yes. Did the Templars interact with kings, aristocrats, landowners, and some of the most powerful families in medieval Europe? Constantly. Can some documented medieval aristocratic genealogies eventually connect with royal houses? Certainly. But was there one hereditary Templar bloodline passed secretly from father to son? No. The Templars were an order, not an ethnicity, not a clan, not a genetic population, and that changes how you should investigate these 15 surnames. If your name is Marshal, Hastings, St. Ledger, Moore, Jay, Sanford, Turville, Forrest, Montfort, Mandeville, Payne, Sinclair, Clare, Percy, or Beaumont, don't begin by drawing a straight line between yourself and a medieval knight. Begin with yourself. Then your parents, your grandparents, great-grandparents, birth certificates, marriage, records, parish registers, wills, land records, taxation, manorial documents, and when the evidence allows it, move backwards another generation. The boring records are what earn you the extraordinary ancestors. Skip them and almost anyone can become descended from anyone. Follow them, and occasionally something astonishing actually survives. And there is one more reason this matters. The Templars didn't need to survive for their world to survive. In 1312, Pope Clement V formally suppressed the Knights Templar. Much of their property was intended to pass to another military religious order, the Hospitallers, although the actual transfer of property could become politically complicated. The institution disappeared, but the people surrounding it did not disappear with it. Families continued, estates changed hands, documents survived, churches remained, place names preserved memories, noble houses married into other noble houses, and surnames traveled forward into a world the Templars themselves could never have imagined. That may explain why Templar ancestry attracts us so strongly. We aren't really fascinated by surnames. We are fascinated by continuity. The possibility that something from an almost unreachable world could have traveled through 700 years and arrived in us. But genealogy becomes most powerful when we stop demanding that the answer be spectacular. Maybe your ancestor wasn't a Templar Grand Master. Maybe he didn't fight in Jerusalem. Maybe there is no royal line. Maybe your family lived beside land once owned by the temple. Maybe someone witnessed a charter. Maybe they farmed an estate. Maybe they carried a surname resembling one on this list for completely unrelated reasons. Or perhaps, after years of careful research, your documented family really does enter one of these medieval networks. If that happens, you won't need an internet list to declare you royal. The records will tell the story themselves. If you've recognized your surname or found one of these names somewhere in your family tree, tell us in the comments. Give us the surname, the earliest ancestor you've actually documented, and the country or county where you've traced them. And subscribe to Unknown Discoveries if you want more investigations into the history hiding behind the names families carry. Because the greatest secret of the so-called Templar surnames is not that 15 names prove 15 royal bloodlines. It is almost the opposite. A surname can survive for centuries while the identity behind it changes completely. And royal ancestry, if it exists, can survive even after the royal-looking surname has disappeared. So, don't ask only, "Is my surname on the list?" Ask the question that can actually change your family history. How far back can I prove it? Because a surname can start the mystery. Only genealogy can solve it.